Okay guys, here we're going to start on our first exercise. So to access the resources we need for this, we're going to need to access Blackboard. So if you get into your Blackboard and click on the unit, so DID 10002, you will see that we have a bunch of options on the left here, and under downloads we should have Lego Man number 1 and 2. We'll open number 1. It's going to open a download. In this case I'll just download it to my desktop, and we'll go back and we'll open Lego Man number 2. Okay. Alright, once that's done we can get out of Blackboard and we can open Rhino. So you see here we've got Rhino open. I'm just going to hit File, Open. I don't need to save any changes here, and I'll get Lego Man in pieces. Okay, so have a look at this model here. You can see we've got a Lego Man. Seems to be all jumbled up on the floor. So that model is that, and we can open up number 2. And we can see again we've got a Lego Man jumbled up on the floor, except this time his head's a bit small, his body's a bit big, he's missing a hand. So this is the more advanced tutorial. So we'll start off on Lego Man V1. Okay, now let's look what we have here. I'm going to turn my view here to shaded just by clicking that drop down. Okay, so you can see here what we'd want to do is use the skills we've developed by moving, rotating, snapping to objects in the first few videos to reassemble this Lego Man. I think the best place to start will be with the body. So I'm going to double click there and go to my top view. What I want to do is I want to centrally locate this torso on the origin point, so I have a reference to work from. It's always important to have a reference. I'm just going to move all the parts out of the way which I don't need, and that way it'll allow me to focus just on this one piece. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is rotate this body so it's straight. So to do that I'm going to move this point just here to the origin. That's the center line. So I'm going to click the object, making sure I have my object snapping turned on. I'm going to type move. I'll grab that point, I'm going to move it down. Now you'll notice I have my grid snapping turned on, and I want to snap that right on that origin point. Okay, we can zoom right in, that's correct. Fantastic, so we have the torso on that origin point. Now the next thing we're going to do is rotate it. So we're going to type rotate, select our object, press enter. We'll start here at the origin point as our center of our rotation. And it's very important this next click is in line with this center torso. This is going to be our reference line because we want this line vertical. So I'm going to click here, seemingly along that line correctly. Okay, and I can start rotating. Now I'm not holding shift in this case, however if I do, it'll automatically straighten it up for us. Okay, and that's because we've selected this straight line. So I'm going to hold shift here, and I'm going to click, and then I'm going to release shift. Okay, so in top view we're looking good. We want to check what we're doing in the right hand view. In the right hand view it's quite confusing, we can't really see what we're working on. So we're going to look at some options for visibility now, so we can make these objects disappear, get out of our way, so we can just see what we're working on. So to do that I'm going to go back to my top view, click and drag to select multiple objects. I'll hold shift to add to that selection. So I'm holding shift and clicking and dragging. Okay. Then I'm going to hit edit, visibility, hide. You'll notice that the shortcut is Control H, and to bring things back i.e. to show them, is Control-Alt-H. These two shortcuts are pretty important, and you'll find that you use them all the time. So let's click hide, and you'll see here that now we have the body of the Lego Man in isolation. Again, to bring those objects back, I'm going to just hit Control-Alt-H. These key combinations, make sure you're pressing them simultaneously, not individually. So don't press Control, then Alt, then H. Press them together. To turn them back off, I'm going to select them again, holding Shift, select the rest, and I'm just going to hit Control-H this time. You'll notice even though I'm using shortcuts, the command's coming up in the command line just to double check you've done the correct thing. Okay, so now we can see in the right hand view that our Lego Man is already aligned along the center, and that's looking good. So I'm confident that this is aligned where we want it. I can see that by zooming right in. So I'm going to bring those objects back in by pressing Control-Alt-H. And the next object I'm going to put on is the head. I'm going to put the head on because it already looks like it's pretty well aligned. So what I'll do is here, I'm going to grab these objects, Control-H, and let's just work on the head. Okay. Now in this case, all I'm going to use my gumball to pop this in place. And we can see here that we want this to snap to that shoulder. So look in 3D view, what I'm talking about. We're in perspective. So this flat plane. This flat plane here. Okay. So what we'll do is, I'm just going to hit move. I'm going to snap that. Now I'm going to hold Shift here to make sure it stays straight. I'm going to watch my perspective view to make sure it doesn't veer off like that. I'm just going to watch my view here, make sure it's staying nice and straight, and click. And that'll be exactly aligned with the torso. Fantastic. Control-H, bring all my objects back. Okay. What are we going to do next? I think we should put these leg bits in next. You can see here that they are, when you click on them to select them, they're all actually grouped together. This is a good way to organize your components for easy selection. In this case, what we want to do is ungroup these because we want to use them individually. So we're going to go Edit, Groups, and Ungroup. Again, you can see the shortcut here, Control-G, Control-Shift-G. These are good to remember as groups are a really handy way to navigate your model. So let's just hit Ungroup. And you'll notice now that we can select these objects individually. Now let's have a look at these objects again, holding Shift and clicking Control-H, get rid of everything else. Okay. Now that looks like it's already vertical to me. All we need to do is flip these around. So because it's already vertical, we can enter a rotate command, and we can just click arbitrarily wherever we want, hold Shift to keep it straight, and then just hold Shift to bring it around. Okay. And now we can work on aligning these. Now what we want to do is, this line here is the center. We want to align that with the center line of the object. So I'll do that by just hitting move. I'll snap to that point. It doesn't look like it wants to snap. So let's see what we're snapping to and see if we can get it. Okay. Because it's a circle here, there's nothing to snap to. Let's try turn some of these on. Vertex maybe? Not quite. Project. Not quite again. Okay. Is not going to do it. No, that's okay. We can grab another center line from somewhere else. In this case, we'll just grab it from right here. That midpoint there. And what we're going to do is we're just going to move that so it snaps to the grid. Now you can see here it's not snapping to the grid. I've turned my grid snapping off at some point, so what I'm going to do is just move my cursor down, click that, and I can move back to grid snapping. Okay. Now you can see that that is aligned vertically. And we can look in perspective view. What we want to do here. Okay, so this looks like it slides up like that. Okay, again, I'm going to turn grid snapping off because I need to do this not aligned with the grid. And that is not correct. I've done this upside down. So to quickly fix that, I'm going to hit mirror, start of mirror plane, grid snap right here, end right there. Okay, I'll delete this one. So ignore all those steps. This was already the right way. There you go. Okay. Okay. What we're going to do is we've got a point here and a point here. We're just going to move this object to this object. So what we'll do is we'll grab this point, just hold shift and bring it up. And you have to be careful when you're snapping that things don't go out of alignment in another view. In that case, that worked. Okay. You can see it doesn't quite line up on the sides, but it does line up in the center here. So that part's done. Control Alt H will bring everything back. Next step is to do the legs. So we're going to grab this leg just here. Okay, and we need to rotate that around to the left. So I'm going to hit rotate. Again, I'm going to click this bottom point on the straight line here. You can click any straight vertical edge. Let's try this one. And I'll click here. And then when I rotate around, I'll just hold shift. That's going to lock it straight for me. Okay. We can move that into position with the gumball turned on. Again, we're going to turn grid snapping off. Okay. And let's have a look how we're going to align these. So we have some points we can use, possibly this point here needs to fit into that socket there. Let's have a look at that. Okay, that's pretty close. Not quite accurate enough though. So what I'm looking for here is a point to align to. So what I'm going to do first is align this surface to that surface. So I'll just use my move command and I'll hit let's try this quad just there to right there. Okay, those cylinders actually line up really well, so that was good. Now I think that is not quite right. You can see these internal cylinders aren't quite matching. We can turn on X-ray view, that can help sometimes, or make things more complicated in this case. So what we're going to do is we'll just move that down and we'll eyeball it. I don't think that socket quite fits, so we'll just leave it there. You can see this is the socket and this is the pin. It's a little bit bigger. Okay, so we'll leave that. And we can just inspect that from the perspective view to check that it's not hitting anything. We can see that pin coming through the back there. Okay, all good. Now we can do the second leg. Again, do that the same way. Rotate. We'll just pick a straight edge. Hold shift. And there you go, make sure that's straight. You can do that by looking at the grid. Now what you'll notice here is the gumball has aligned to the object. Okay, so what we want to do is you can click that little circle and you go align to object, and that'll fix it. Okay, now let's look what we're dealing with in perspective. Now that leg's upside down, so we need to flip that around 180 degrees. So to do that, we're just going to hit rotate again, Now that it's straight, we can just do this from anywhere. I'm going to hit just like that, holding shift, that way I know I'm doing 180 degrees. Okay, I'll move that roughly into position. I'm going to hit move again, snap that into position, and then this time I want it to align with this leg. So what I'm going to do is I'll move it again from down here. I might just do that with a gumball and get it, turn grid snapping off in this case. Try to get it as close as possible. Now there are ways to get this done more exactingly, but for the purpose of this exercise, that's pretty good. Okay, so we've got the legs, we've got the torso. Let's look at the arms. So the arms look like they're going to be a little bit tricky. What we might do is I'm first going to put that hand in. I'm going to put that hand in by picking that point and popping it onto that point. So I'll just grab this hand, I'll hit move. Let's see if I can grab that point in the middle there. Center, there you go. Oh, not quite. Let's try that again. Just right click there. You see it's not letting me select because it wants to select something else. Sometimes you can have too many of these switched on and it gets a bit confused. So I'm going to turn project off. Okay, maybe I'll just try to pick that point there, the top of the circle, see if there's anywhere to pop that. I can probably just put that just there. And that's aligned it pretty well. I'm not quite sure which way these hands go, so I'm just going to leave that as it is, and let's get it near the socket now. I want this to move as one piece from now on, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it, I'm going to hit edit, group, and group. And that should make sure that I've got it always in the correct position. Okay. Now this arm looks to me to be at the correct angle. Let's just go have a look, see if we can pop it in the socket. Again, I'm just using the gumball to move around and see how close I am. You can see this line here is the line of the arm, that's the line of the socket, and they're lining up, which is what we want. So we can just move that into place, make sure you don't have grid snap turned on, otherwise it's going to be very hard to accurately place it. As you can see, with grid snap turned on, it only lets you move in 1mm increments. Okay, and we'll just pop that right there, and that looks good. Okay, now the last arm is a little bit trickier. You can see here it may be on the wrong angle, so what we can do is we can just hit rotate. I'm going to try to flip that around 180 degrees, see if that fixes it. Okay, let's see where we're at. Now we still look to be not on the right angle. Let's just double check where we are in space, in perspective. Okay, so the arm's facing the right way, but it's on an incorrect angle. So what we need to do is here is move the object to the body of the man, the figure, and then rotate it to line up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a point just arbitrarily along the arm. So this end point here, I know that's on the edge, and what I want to do is snap it somewhere along this arm. There you go. Okay, now I'm going to hit rotate. Make sure I get that point again, mid along this line. Okay, and if I rotate it now, I can snap it to the correct angle. So just to show you that again from the start, what I've done is I've got the object, I've hit move, and I've created myself a sort of anchoring point to start rotating from on the body itself, because I know that's the correct angle. So I'm going to hit this end point just here. I'll move it just there. Okay, now these bits are touching. Now I can just go rotate. Got that end point again. I'm going to set my second point to be along this line, and then I'm going to rotate it until it snaps. There we go. Now if it's not snapping, just check that you've got the correct snaps turned on or off, and we can place that. Okay, almost there. This hand we didn't quite put in properly, so what we'll do here again is grab this hand. I'm going to hit move. This time I might see if I can grab a point from here and pop that there. That looks correct. Okay, so that time I found the right point to move. If you notice here, our arm is actually a little bit low. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in from the side view, make sure we select the correct arm, and move that up till it lines up, just by eye in this case. Okay, and we can see here we have a Lego man. He's currently lying down, so I'm going to do a couple of things to bring him to life. I'm going to first group this arm by hitting Control G. Again, shift click to select multiple objects. Okay, I'm going to grab his whole body by grabbing the whole thing. I'm going to move into my right hand view. I'm going to hit rotate. Grab him from here, shift and shift. Okay, and now we flip the whole man 180 degrees, so he is standing, which is great. So once you've complete that, we can do a couple of things here. We can rotate things like his legs or his arms. To do that, we'll go into our side views. I'm going to hit that leg, and we'll hit rotate. We're going to see if that's the correct center point just here. That looks quite good. Okay, so I'm going to lift this leg up. I'm going to rotate this one again from that same center point. Again, this is just rough because the model's not snapping correctly, and I'll move that leg back. You can see that center point again becomes important as a sort of axis for the legs to move on. So you can see now he's walking. We might want to rotate this arm back, so I'm going to grab a side view again, look for a rough center. Again, it's not going to be that accurate in this case, so I'll just pick a point that looks about right, move the arm back, and that worked out okay. You can see here he's walking, and from the top view we're going to rotate his head to make him look a different direction. If you're just rotating things sort of just by eye to place them, the gumball can come in handy. Not only can you move left and right, you can also grab these exterior sort of semicircle shapes and rotate things. So I'll put it back in position. I'm going to grab that thing and just turn it. Oops. And there you go. You can see in 3D with the gumball you can actually do it as well. You just have to be aware that Z is green, so that refers to the correct way we want to move. The red is Y, and the X is blue. You can see that by looking at this bottom right hand corner XYZ, and that means you can just quickly move it any way you need. This arm ended up looking a little bit wrong. Move it out. Okay, but you know, close enough. So that's it for that exercise. What we want you guys to do is put the Lego man together and then come up with a range of poses for him to be in. I've done one here, he's walking, but you can do whatever else you like. If you want, you can also add some props in using these primitive shapes. Alright, thanks guys.